We are live. Drones After Dark, episode 24. Look at us. Starting on,
24.
yeah. Yeah, no more seasons. It's just episodes now. And joining us is Search and Rescue Extraordinaire, Kyle Norfors, as well as overall drone extraordinaire, Vic Moss. Welcome,
Happy,
welcome
happy,
to our
happy to be
show.
here.
He's the
And
he's the guy we
he's
have
the
to
guy we
call
have to call
whenever.
whenever.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
hearing.
I'm hearing
Is there
feedback. Is there
feedback on my
feedback
end
on
or
my?
no?
Try again.
What about now?
It's
All right,
good.
it's good. It's good. I was gonna say Vic is the guy you have to call when you need things explained. So you have to read. The 10 or 15 documents. You call Vic and you ask him, hey, can you give me
Oh,
the the cliff notes to all that?
Yeah,
we're
he's
not
huge.
we're not doing my phone number out, by the way. So if that's what you're waiting for, ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
We'll just
Vic
share.
is
We'll
the
share your
chat
email.
GPT of the drone industry.
Oh, I
Ooh, I
guess
am
so.
not. I am not. This is probably the point of the conversation where I should say I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. I have an art degree. So you can take what I say with that in mind.
Yeah,
I
message
gotta always
him.
put that out there.
He loves it. Just message him, comment. What's his phone number again?
We'll share his email.
555. If you can't find my email, you have no idea how to use Google.
Your personal email.
Well,
Do I
hey
have one?
guys.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say cheers to everybody. I have my Mountain Rescue mug. I
Yay.
actually have, if you guys will indulge me, I have this bottle of vodka and it's
Oh
called
my.
Salute 22. Now, there's a reason why I grabbed this one right here. You guys might recognize the number 22 for the veterans, the 22 a day that take their own lives. And one of my compatriots, one of my fellow, well, he was a deputy at the local sheriff's office, a veteran. Unfortunately, took his own life recently. We just
Hmm.
had his funeral just last week, and so
Uh,
in honor of him and all those veterans that are out there, and we love you. And please reach out. Whatever we can do, any of us can do to help. Please check in on your buddies because it's a real thing. PTSD is a real thing. So anyway, so cheers to Brendan Miles. Brendan Miles.
Cheers.
Definitely.
Ooh, that's strong. It is electrolytes and water.
That's what you're drinking?
Yeah, I can't be
No.
drinking anything alcoholic. It'll inflame my back. I feel like everyone knows at this point. I herniated two discs about a month ago, so I'm actually sitting on a yoga ball and laying down on this couch in between sessions. My body hurts, so still recovering.
I would think that would call for alcohol, actually.
I was gonna say the same thing. But I
It is a
guess Bobby doesn't want to day drink. Well, it was his choice to do drones after dark during the day, so
Yeah.
I guess he's not a day drinker.
That's true. It is really bright outside right now. Yeah, no day drinking for me. But what we got on the agenda today? A lot of things are going down in the drone industry. Let's start off with what's on top of everyone's minds. Where can you get an M30T? It seems like
That
they're impossible. What's going on?
that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna start off with, obviously there's no the supply chain has been pretty much cut, right?
Hmm.
And this I'm not even saying as far as buying new drones because everybody's having a hard time finding units, but even repairing your drones, right? There's a backlog and you might wait or they might not be able to accept it to repair it. So, which, it for public safety, it's pretty bad that, you don't have access to new drones, and at the same time, if you have an incident on the field and you damage your drone, we just had one with our Avata yesterday, and luckily we have spare parts for it, but there's a lot of departments that can't get access to these parts and they can't get them fixed. So what's the result? Now you have to turn to alternatives to buy equipment. It's bad.
I will say though, I've been using multi-copter warehouse DJI Colorado for since the beginning, basically, for probably 10, 12 years. And I talked to them today about something else, and he said he was getting repairs in and fixed. So if you need a repair, at least it's worth a phone call, multi-copter warehouse here in Denver. So I don't get paid by them, but since that came up, I do know that they are able to repair still. So give them a shout if you can't find somebody local.
It
Nice.
is one of the most frustrating things about all of that is that it's all started or founded based off of something that's not true.
100%.
Um, and so basically what it is doing, it's essentially creating a drone ban without actually having a ban. And
Without the
it's
illegality of it.
right. And it's all based off of a false premise, something without evidence. Here in the United States, when you're playing politics, you're guilty until proven innocent in many ways. And the net result of this is that agencies like Lewis's, agencies across the country are unable to get the most capable, reliable aircraft out there. And so it's just exposing our brave men and women in blue and red to danger. And
Hmm.
there's just no other way to spin it. It's just creating a situation that doesn't need to be created. Now, if there was actual evidence and proof of everything, then that would be one thing. But given the fact that this disparity has been created based off of a false premise and without evidence, it's quite troubling. There's also it's happening. It's affecting people, normal like citizens, people like you and me, going across the border, hanging out. Let's say someone in particular. I actually know of someone that bought a drone over in Canada, used it while in Canada on vacation, and then while he was trying to come back to the United States, CBP detained him, missed his flight, missed his meeting, wasn't able to do any. And this is a prominent figure in the drone industry, and he wasn't able to make it back. He was questioned. All of his bags and everything were searched, and he was he felt very violated by the whole process. And it's just inexcusable that that's the political environment in which we currently are now in.
Right, and no fault to CBP, right? Because if you they're only following orders, right?
They're
And
following orders.
I just
Exactly.
I find it amazing that they're able to target 100% of DJI drones coming into the country, right? And but now, Kyle, do we have to worry about like so every time I travel international, I take my DJI drones with me, right? So now do we have to worry? Is that going to be the next step? When they're doing inspections, coming in through the borders, and you have your DJI drone with you, are they gonna, or are we subject to be taken away, right? Um,
That's a fear.
Right, it could happen, right? But but while we're on this subject, right, and it's still, there's a lot of guesses of how this all got started, how CBP got, put on to DJI and all that stuff. But and I think Kyle, you mentioned proof, right? So something that I think I've been talking about this is that there's a gentleman of Joe Bartlett, right, that was on he was on in Stefanek's advisory board. I think he was national security.
He was her national security advisor.
Yeah, national security advisor from I think 2021 to 2023. So what's interesting about this is that then in 2023 he leaves and then he gets hired by Skydio, right? He becomes Skydio's director of federal policy, right?
Yep.
So obviously he's there. He's still has all his contacts in DC. And I'm not even going to go into the act that, the Drone First Responder Act that she proposed during this whole time. So, obviously he went to Skydio. It's all there, right? It's not like, I'm making this up,
Yeah.
right? This
It's
is
on
all
his
stuff you
LinkedIn
can,
page.
it's on his LinkedIn page. You can see all this stuff, right? So he leaves, goes and works for Skydio. She comes out with the Drone for First Responder Act, right? Luckily, there wasn't that didn't go anywhere, right? Which it's a good thing. So he's at Skydio until January of 2025, right? And then June of 2025, he starts working as the deputy undersecretary to the Department of Commerce, right? The U.S. Department of Commerce, which a lot of people are like, all right, I'm sure they do a lot of things, right? But one thing that they could do is that they can actually put a stop to goods coming into the country, right? So they can make claims against certain companies, and all of a sudden they get put on the list, and the supply chain's gone, right? So listen, I'm not saying that 100% this is what happened, but if you just look on his LinkedIn page and you look at his experience, and it's all there. It's all laid out for us. So it's almost like they're not even hiding it from us. It's like, yeah, I worked for her. I went to work for Skydio, and now I'm at U.S. Department of Commerce, and now there's no more DJI drones coming into the country.
Yep. Yep. Now if you look, I just pulled up his LinkedIn page because I have it bookmarked. Um,
I have
he,
screenshots
he's
in case it
he's
changes.
got he's got a lot of experience. I'll give him that 100%. But it is weird how, now he's the undersecretary at BIS, so Bureau of Industry and Security, like you mentioned.
Can you share your screen?
And it just can't. I'm not going to share my screen. I got too many bookmarks open. I got things people aren't allowed to see.
Share.
But it's okay. Go to my article, and actually, there is a link to his LinkedIn page in my article, which we can talk about in a little bit. He knows his stuff, and he is smart, obviously. And can I share this? I'll share this part. I heard from sources that he did not leave Skydio under the best of circumstances. So my hope is he can separate himself. He actually should legally from the whole BIS request for comments that just came out yesterday. So hopefully he is separated from that, and I think hopefully he has the integrity to do that. So we'll see. So let
Does it
me.
look like a man with
Oh, there he
integrity?
is. There it is, right there.
He looks like he's got some integrity left in him.
Yeah, could be. He could be.
All those
So
pictures are the same. And the only thing that he's missing from his job experience is AUVSI. I think that's the only thing he's missing in there. Or maybe I don't know, maybe he consults for them. Who knows?
And
this
maybe
is
some
also
aviation experience.
the
Yeah.
part of the show where I say
Shout
I'm
out
not
to Mike.
associated with the AUVSI anymore,
Shout out
and
to
it's at the national
Mike
level.
Robbins.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mike Robbins. Is that what he said? Wild. So, National Security Advisor goes from there to Armed Services, and then bam, Skydio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Keep going
that
up.
he left with not the best.
That's what I heard. No confirmation, no nothing. So you can take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, but then Vic, he ends up at Department of Commerce where he can
Mhm.
actually, have some sort of influence on,
Right.
putting DJI on a certain list so their supply chain is cut.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's knowing the speed of government. And I'm not defending the guy. Trust me. I don't know him. I've never met him. But knowing the speed of government, he was there 1 month before they started the investigation. So could they do that in 4 weeks? The investigation started July 1st. He came in on June 1st
Well,
into the BIS. So could
is
they? Maybe. Why not?
isn't
If you
isn't
want it from the top down,
isn't there a time frame of 30 days that was just put on somebody? So I don't know. I guess 4 weeks is
did they
doable.
make it?
Right.
No.
So if,
So, but yeah, it's interesting with the coincidences, and you can make your own conclusions. I guess would be a nice way to put it. A nice diplomatic way to put it. How does that sound?
Connecting those dots is not very
Connecting
hard
those
at all.
dots.
And if, it's so blatant, it's shocking that they don't come out with any type of disclaimer or comment about it just to try to maintain some level of integrity other than just trying to hide beneath it all. I mean, it's shady. Government politics, hate it all.
Yep.
they definitely they're not trying to hide it. It's in our face, and then obviously everybody's falling for it, which makes it even more difficult, right? Especially when you have all these cheerleaders out there, right? And they're talking about, Skydio, and they're talking about, their drones. And I keep telling people, I'm like, if you're forced to use it, and we understand this Department of Florida, right? You have no other choice, right? And that's when you
Mhm.
that's when you hear, okay, we had to go with them because they're the best of the worst, right? Okay. And I hear that a lot, best of the worst, right?
Yep.
But when you're not obligated to, go blue UAS or whatever other color you want to call it, and you're opting to buy a Skydio drone over a more reliable, more affordable platform, then you're just hurting overall. You're hurting public safety, right? You're hurting
Mhm.
your the agency that's neighbor to you, and it just makes it more difficult for everybody else that's trying to advocate for this equipment. It makes it because one, it's giving Skydio more power, right? Because oh look, now we have this many departments in this state, right? And we still have to worry about the whole Axon influence and all this, right? Because now it's all being put into the contracts. Hey, you can have DFR and all this and that, and it's free for the first year, whatever scam they're pulling, right? But when you're opting to go and purchase something that you're not really forced to at the moment, right? Or whatever, nothing's making you buy it, and you're buying it's just hurting everybody else. And and it upsets me because these are guys, you're talking about cops and firefighters that, you think that they would know better, right? You should, and you're letting these salespeople come in and convince you, right? No, you buy what you want, right? You dictate to them what you want, right? And go somewhere else, it's
That's why Skydio quit selling to the pilots. They changed their whole sales program to sell to the captains and the commanders who may or may not be experienced in the field, especially when it comes to drones. If you've risen to the level of commander, odds are you don't have a lot of stick time because you're past that as boots on the ground stick a
right.
pilot.
They're
So lots of
bypassing they're
promises.
Yeah, they're bypassing the actual end user in the department, right? They're not going to, they're going straight to upper management. If sometimes they're going straight to the politicians in those cities.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're coming down on the department and say, nope, you have to go, you're going to go, and they're being told to buy, right? So they know if they start with the end users, right? The guys that are actually out there flying the drones, they're going to be like, nope, we don't want this crap. We That's what they're going to tell them, right? Depending, obviously, chain
Right.
of
And
command and all that stuff.
on the business side of things, they're actually what they're doing is they're leveraging a lot of the Axon contracts, where there might be a certain portion of that contract that was already budgeted out, but they're not going to spend it on, say, another drone system or another say like a Loki, for instance. They're just going to reallocate that into the Skydios because it's more profitable for them. So, the budget was already allocated out. It was just for something else. And basically the Axon folks just went on in, talked to command staff and said, oh, well, you already have this. You don't have to spend extra money. It's already
Integrate.
budgeted in. Just get the Skydio nests instead, or get a few drones instead from Skydio. And that's
Right.
how getting in.
And you have to keep in mind that the Axon contracts are all multi-year contracts, right? So, they'll come and they'll give you, DFR, right? Skydio DFR free, right? Hey, you're going to get it free for a year. You're going to, we're going to break it down into, the 5 years or whatever. I'm sure each contract is different, right? It's all going to be based on what department they're selling to, right? And then, and these departments they get suckered into it, right? Oh yeah, we're getting, and then like Vic said, you're getting the person that's not the most knowledgeable person on drones, right? To them it's like, oh, it's a drone, they're all the same, they're all doing the same thing, right? And they're the ones making the decision. Yeah, I'm signing the contract, not knowing that now you're getting Skydio DFR, right? I think so. Obviously to them it was a big win. When they partnered with Axon, I think it just gave them more power, and I think it's not a good thing.
Nope. And I just found out last week that my own city, Lakewood, Colorado, went with Skydio DFR or DFN. I reached out to my city manager about that as soon as I find out. Said, "Hey, what's going on? How much did it cost?" Crickets. So as soon as I'm in town and it works out, I'm going to a city council meeting and asking some questions, and I'll probably get a few people to go with me. So yeah, so I mean, it's they're quiet about it. So I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
Well, and then just to reiterate, because I know that there's going to be, those that don't share the same points of view that we do, or, most of the people that speak out against us on the different social medias are people that aren't necessarily stakeholders in this line of work. They're either, you know, keyboard warriors or picking a fight from 2017, or
That's a
they're
good one.
politicians that sleazy politicians that just want to advocate and lobby in DC, right? When it comes to all of us, we're boots on the ground, we're operating, and it's not that we're anti one particular company or pro another company. We're pro what works. and
Hmm.
and at the bottom, at the end of the day, for us in public safety, and then also for you, Vic, it's what is going to get the job done, and what's going to do it at the with the reliability that we all need, with the capabilities that we all require, and then also for the price that is reasonable for for the different use case scenarios. In search and rescue, I can tell you this right now: mountain rescue is probably the one situation that pushes the drones to the furthest extent of it the envelope. You need to have a drone that can do a lot more, with a lot more performance, with the connectivity to be able to really throw the drone down range, whether you're flying BVLOS or even when you're flying LOS. You need to be able to toss that drone up to 3,000 feet in altitude, and it needs to work. And if these policies, so Michael Robbins, if you're watching, the policies you're pushing for will decrease my capability, will shorten that window, shrink my envelope, and lives will be lost. And that's why we are all so passionate about this, is because if we all went the way of Florida, or if we all went the way that Stefanik or Robbins or Bry want us to go, or Blake, it's going to cost lives. And that's where that's where we're at the end of the day. And so for us on our side of the argument, we want the best equipment. We want the freedom to choose, because if all of their allegations are true, like everything that they've ever accused DJI of, which it changes from month to month to month, it seems,
Depends
those
on the pushback
goalposts,
they get.
yeah, the goalposts constantly change. Um, Even if, let's assume the absolute worst, and China is spying on us while I'm flying my drone trying to save a life. Who cares? Who cares if they're spying while I'm up on the mountain trying to find and save a life? Now, military, different scenario, right? Absolutely
100%.
different. Military, public safety are not the same thing. Military and drone service providers, not the same thing. So why are we all being held to the same level? And then it's
Well,
just,
Kyle,
it's,
do you think that they do care if you were asking them, if you were talking to them right now?
They who?
yeah, who are
Like
they?
Michael Robbins, do you think they would care
About what?
about the lives that would be potentially lost with these regulations?
Well,
History states otherwise.
yeah, I can only go based off of what they say. Now, Michael Robbins, in his testimony that he just had up on Capitol Hill with a few other gentlemen, he openly lied, he openly misled, and he was so disingenuous with his words. He even went as far as saying that there was a DJI drone used during the attempted murder, assassination of President Trump. Though, and as if that was DJI's fault. And so, because a DJI drone was used to scat out the area, we should therefore ban them all. But needless to say, we're not talking about the gun that the guy used, or maybe the binoculars that he used, or the rangefinder that he used, or the vehicle that he used to drive to the location to take the shot. I mean,
Or his mental health issues.
or his mental health issues, like everything. It was a very dishonest, intellectually dishonest argument coming from the head of AUVSI. And if anybody watching this, it works for AUVSI or Skydio, go watch Michael Robbins' testimony. It is disgusting the manner in which he misled our elected representatives. I mean, it was blatant. It was inexcusable. It was absurd, the manner in which he was trying to paint the narrative against these products, which we use to save lives. I mean, it was,
and he
just
didn't
absolutely,
carry it on to its conclusion either, with exactly
no.
what happened out there. Without mentioning names, because we don't have confirmation, the Secret Service had an American-made drone. We'll leave it at that. That they could not launch because of technical issues and connectivity issues. And if they had that opportunity, they would have found that kid on the roof in what,
Right.
20 seconds?
Well, there was only two roofs. That's it. That whole that whole
Exactly.
that whole property only had two roofs that they had to keep an eye on, right?
Hmm.
And you could have done that with a $400 Mavic Mini, right? You could have
Right.
sent it up and you could have seen somebody on the roof, right?
Photo
And one of
kite.
the local
Could have
police
used the photo
departments,
kite.
Photo
yeah, it
kite.
could use photokite. One of the police agencies, local, said, "Hey, do you guys need some help?" And they said, "What do you got?" And we were DJI. No. So they turned down help from one of the locals with their drone team because they used DJI. So that's the absurdity of the argument that Michael Robbins put forth yesterday during that testimony. Yeah, DJI, the kid used DJI. He wanted to use the best too, right? To scout the locations. But he could have used a $50 Walmart drone, Amazon drone.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. A drone is a drone is a drone. He could have used a Skydio X10 to do it if he could have connected with it and made it fly. But it wasn't a DJI drone. I mean, it wasn't a DJI's fault, I should say. Could have been any drone. And Michael made sure that he brought up the fact that it was a DJI drone to a congressional subcommittee, and that was inexcusably blatant
And well, and on
anti-DJI.
that,
It's
oh,
like
it was, yeah, it's
naked,
inexcusable.
though.
And further what Michael Robbins does with the board at AUVSI. So the people that are not part of the aerial portion of it. So, for example, I've been in communications with a member of the board that is part of the ROV, or the underwater portion of AUVSI, and he was told lies. Like he was kept in the dark. They treat the board like mushrooms, and they give him one single talking point and saying, "Well, AUVSI didn't put them on the known or the list, and that's why we're." And like, no, dude, they, they don't even keep their own board up to date or in the loop as to what is the nature of the industry, and it's so incredibly frustrating. But
I
I
think
do
he's just
have,
getting they're giving him talking points and that's it. Here, this is
yeah,
what you need to say. This is what you need to mention, and keep it moving.
I do have video of a special forces group shooting down Skydios, so that's fun.
I'm
I
gonna
also
just
have a
zip
video.
my mouth for that one.
I have a video of an X10 that after a water test they did just to replicate like rainfall, and the thing is freaking out, almost bangs into a bunch of walls. But I can't share it, but it didn't do too well in the water test.
Who
One
has the
another,
video of the Skydio X10 from NYPD that caught on fire? That one would be something to share.
Oh, they're so happy with their program, and you know what's crazy is that NYPD's had a drone program for a while, right? So
Yeah, they were one of the first.
they had a lot of mostly all DJI drones, right? And then but you never saw them, putting it out there, advertising their drone program when they were using DJI drones, right? Now all of a sudden they have, the Skydio DFR program, and it seems like every other post on LinkedIn coming from anybody at NYPD is here's our, DFR program, Skydio, catching, people right on the top of the trains, right? But they didn't do that when it was DJI. So,
It's part of their marketing.
are they even a paid program?
I'm unsure about that, but maybe they give a discount to post, marketing stuff about Skydios online.
Maybe it's in their contract. Just asking, not
well, and that's the
accusing.
sad thing. A lot of the boots on the ground, the corporals, the officers that are actually using the equipment on the men and women on the front lines, they're kind of gagged by their either by their brass or by the contracts the company signs with the PD, that they're not allowed to speak anything good or bad. They're just gagged by, and there are a lot of departments around the country that they can't do that. And so then Skydio or Brink or these manufacturers that are trying to force us into using their product are able to just advertise willy-nilly with look how awesome we are without any threat of recourse or bad press, because they write it into their contracts, or they give the discounts to, you know, and to keep the men and women on the front lines quiet. It's incredibly frustrating. I was actually doing an interview with the Wall Street Journal. I was on the telephone with her, and while I was testing the X10 in these mountains, and I was trying to recreate several of the different rescues that I had. And in the process of doing the interview, as I was talking to her, the Skydio X10 lost connectivity, and it was barely just shy of 1,000 feet away from me at the time, lost connectivity in the mountains, and was executing a return to home. And I wasn't even a quarter of the way to where I needed to get the drone to in order to like execute the rescue. So it's just so frustrating that this lobbying, it quite literally is costing lives. It's so
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yep. Yep. It's terrible. It's terrible, especially hearing the agencies that I talk to that aren't gagged, that are forced to use it. It's best of the worst, like Lewis said. Like there's nothing glowing about it. Nothing positive. Just because they've used other drones before. They've used DJI Autel drones, and they understand how good it is compared to a Skydio. It's a step backwards.
By the way, now would be a good time for me to say, I hope Skydio succeeds. I really do. We need an American product,
Absolutely.
and they're best positioned to do it, right? So why don't they do that? Why don't they do a little more time, spend a little more of their resources and their time, bring in some more R&D specialists. Let's get the X10 tuned in where it needs to be, um, and get it. Even if it's going to cost more, any American company is going to cost more. We get that. We get that. But we need one. we really do need one. And there are certain circumstances, like Kyle mentioned, that we really shouldn't be flying Chinese drones or any non-air gap drone, including Skydio, by the way, or any other drones. We need an American drone company that puts out a really good product at a really good price to satisfy that market. That's
Yeah,
what needs to
that's
happen.
what I think the Secretary of Defense was talking about in his interesting video. Do we have a copy of that video somewhere that we could share?
We just might.
Oh, interesting. Let me find his video about it and see what he says.
Public safety.
Oh, I think I found it.
Public safety needs better. Get Adam on the phone. This can't keep happening.
Dang.
Too good, too good. But you know,
What?
one of the part of the problems though with Pete Hegseth out there doing that, I mean, great. If we can unleash American drone dominance, then great, let's do it. But let's not do it at the expense of American lives. But in addition to that, you know, people are focused. There are people even in the text talking about NDA compliant drones. Why in the hell do we need NDA compliant drones for public safety or prosumers or for, you know, why are we going to be paying that extra cost? You know, the military, sure, NDA compliant, get it, go for it, awesome.
100%.
But public
Yep.
safety doesn't need NDA compliant. We don't need the blue list. We don't, the green list, get out of here. That is the most moronic thing ever.
But now
And
it's part of DIU. The green
I-
list was added to DIU today.
yeah. It's Michael Robbins massaging someone else's, scratching someone else's back. There's a lot of massaging going on back there.
How much of drones do you think the Secretary of Defense knows about? Do you think he knows anything about
Nothing.
drones? Nothing.
Nothing. He probably knows something about, you know, a Reaper drone when he was in the military. He probably knows, you know, something about that. But as far as the public safety enterprise version, nothing. He knows nothing. But it's just convenient for some of these companies to focus on NDA compliance or blue list. The NDA compliant / blue list stuff is one of the worst things that's ever happened to the consumer, prosumer, enterprise industry. We don't need it. We don't want it. And if you're a manufacturer out there, there's a lot of great American-made products out there. Have a non-NDA compliant. If you want to make an NDA compliant and go after the military, go after the military. But if you want public safety, it just who cares if it's NDA compliant or not?
And your
I don't-
biggest sector are what are people like me.
Yes,
You know, commercial
exactly.
photographer. I do stockpiles. I do video. I do photography. That's the big market. That's the major market. Can you compete with DJI or Autel? I don't know, but you don't know unless you try. All American manufacturers have abandoned 90% of the market. Abandoned. They
What-
have no plans for it at all. Period.
What are you left with, Vic, if that happens?
I just start doing ground photography again. Either that or I stockpile my Mavic 3 Mavic 3 Pros or Mavic 3 Enterprises back there. And you know, I can't afford to degrade the imagery I give my clients. They hire me to give them the best imagery I can. And if I have to use subpar equipment, I won't fly a drone I can't give my clients what they expect from me.
And I think
that's what it would end up being.
that's what people need to understand, right? And there's a lot of, I get into a lot of arguments on LinkedIn, on posts and stuff where I think people are like, oh, what's the big deal? It's public safety, just go get a Skydio drone or something like that. But what they seem to forget is that it's not only public safety, right? By all the lobbying that these guys created, it's taking drones away from everybody. It's taken from photography, right? Inspection work, just a regular hobbyist that wants to fly a drone, right? They're not going to be, now you can't go, you're not going to be able to go into Best Buy and be like, oh, let me go get a drone because my kid, it's a birthday party this weekend. It's an outside party. I want to take pictures, aerial shots of the party. You can't even do that anymore. Like, and that's what these people don't understand. It's a lot bigger than what's being put out there, right? And then the other thing I was going to say before I had some audio issues was the amount of money that they're spending. So let's use Skydio as an example, right? So obviously they want DJI out, so they dominate the market, public safety, right? Federal contracts, all that stuff, right? So the amount of money that they spend on lobbying, right? Wouldn't it be cheaper for them if there was any truth to their claims, right? About data being sent back to China and all that stuff that they claim, right? Wouldn't it be cheaper for them just to prove that that's correct, right?
You'd
The
think.
fact that they're right, the fact that they're willing to spend all this money in lobbying and creating all this legislation and and doing all this crazy stuff, right? If if what they claim, if what they're claiming is true, it would have been cheaper for them just to prove that, right? And the fact that they haven't, right? And it just seems like it goes from, okay, well, now we're going to have all these proposed legislation, right? That's going to happen, right? Then they don't happen. Then they go to, okay, let's get CBP to stop, DJI drones to come into the country, right? And and it seems like it's working, right? Because it's getting harder and harder to buy a drone, right? So
Oh, it's working.
right, it's working. So
Hmm.
if there was any truth to their claims, it would be a lot cheaper for them, right? For them just to pay, somebody to, look into a deep dive into DJI, prove that, the data is being sent back and all that stuff, and they would have had the reports out. The fact that they
Yep.
haven't goes to show that it's all bullshit.
Hmm. And well, the thing is, like, they don't need to prove it, as long as there's
Fear
complacency, because
fear
by
mongering.
December
Hmm.
23rd of this year,
23rd.
if,
Yep.
if no national security agency audits DJI, then by default they're banned. That's it.
DJI,
Who's
Patel, Specta, Anzu, all of them.
who's gonna do that, right? So even from the beginning, it was set up to fail, right? Because none of the federal agencies have been flying DJI drones for years, right?
Hmm.
So who at that level, right?
Hmm.
You can have a program manager in DC, right? That's going to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it. And then the minute that somebody finds out in upper management, right, they're gonna be like, no, you're not, right? You can't do it. So from the beginning, it was set up for failure. You're gonna get one of the federal agencies to do a deep dive into DJI drones. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Who's going to put their name on that signature line?
Right.
Hmm.
They're going to put their butt in a sling. I mean, the bureaucrat's not going to do that.
Yeah. And it also begs the question, like, DJI's got lots of money, like way more than Skydio.
Hmm.
Well, why are they so bad at lobbying? Like, why are they just shooting stuff in
DJI
the...
spends more money on lobbying than Skydio does. But the reason for that, and this is everybody uses, oh, they spend more money.
Yes.
It's a bullshit
Yes.
argument.
Big time.
Um, when you're lobbying from a defensive position, you have to spend more money. And if you're lobbying against people who have politicians in their pockets, they don't have to spend as much money because they've got politicians in their pockets that can do their bidding for them. Skydio, Brink, AUVSI, State Armor, they all have not lobbyists. They have legislators in their pockets or bureaucrats in their pockets where don't have to spend a dime on lobbying. They may spend a few dollars here or there for the election campaigns, re-election campaigns too, but they don't have to spend the money on lobbying because they don't need to.
Yeah. The
If you
biggest
have to
difference.
defend yourself against allegations that are blatantly false or have been answered, and the agency you gave those answers to are ignoring you, then you have to spend a lot of money on lobbying.
Yeah. The biggest difference is Skydio is lobbying to take equipment away from people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So public safety, everybody, right? They're lobbying against DJI. That's going to take drones away. DJI is lobbying to basically still keep providing. They're not lobbying to
Yeah.
say, hey, keep our drones and take Skydio away. They're just lobbying so they can stay in business, right? That's what they're doing. And that's an argument that we see it a lot, Kyle. There's one specific person on LinkedIn and all my social media that always puts these charts. Look, DJI spent double, triple, whatever, quadruple the amount on lobbying. And I'm
You
like,
haven't
dude,
blocked him yet?
no, because he's entertaining. He's entertaining, and and I don't, he's entertaining. I'll leave it at that. But
Right.
that's the biggest difference. One is lobbying to take equipment away from first responders, right, from public safety and from hobbyists and other industries, right. DJI is just lobbying to stay in business to keep selling and providing that equipment to the people to the end users. But to Bobby's point, I think yeah, I would think that DJI, with all the money that they have, that we would see more of I don't know, more of a fight, right? That's what I'm trying to get at, right? But
I would like to see that from them.
Right, I think and I think they're leaving it up to the end. And I know this is just my perspective on things. I think like they're leaving it up to the end users to fight their fight, and and it's hard because I'm going to like. our buddy Adam blocked me, right? And he's
Me
blocked me
too.
on social media, right? And it's getting to the point where like you're getting blocked, and I walk through shows, and there's CEOs of company pointing and telling people, look, that's Lewis walking by, right? So it's kind of like, dude, I don't. And I've been accused of getting paid by DJI, free
Me
drones from
too.
DJI.
Adam. Yep.
Listen,
All of us have.
I get Legos, DJI Legos, and I have a Skydio Lego, and
Right there.
I have Skydio socks.
I have Skydio
I have
socks as well.
Right. I have yet to receive a free drone from DJI.
I,
I'm doing this, and listen, and I tell people this all the time. I'm like, listen, I'm not sitting behind a desk and talking about drones and DJI and this and that. Like, I'm still an end user. I'm out there using the drone, and
Mhm.
and a lot of times I text with you guys. Yesterday I had like three or four good use cases, right? Just incidents that happened. That's how it is. That's how it is on a daily basis. So I'm not claiming I'm a subject matter expert. And Kyle, that's what you missed before. Those are also guys that we see on these social posts, these subject matter experts that are kissing up to Skydio and Adam. Like, dude, don't like do it behind closed doors. Like, hit the guy up and say you want a job. Don't go, saying how much you love Skydio and what they're doing and their tech on LinkedIn. That's just smoke and mirrors. So it's extremely frustrating to deal with these people, and then they get 30. Like I said, they start accusing you of being on the take, and listen, I have to pass a federal background investigation where I'm at. So I've never traveled to China. I'm not in communication with anybody in China. So keep accusing me of whatever you want. It's the same fear mongering crap that you're doing against the equipment I
well,
use.
it's intellectually dishonest in almost
Mhm.
every fashion, because to go off of what you were saying, Vic, it's everybody lobbies. I talk to my local legislators, the local senator, congress people. I talk to them, so I do my form of lobbying. The DJI is entitled to lobby. Skydio, Brink, State Armor, they're all entitled to lobby.
Absolutely. 100%.
It's what you lobby for that truly matters. And if you're lobbying for measures that put American lives at risk, then you cannot claim any sorts of false or faux patriotism by saying that you're trying to support an American company, American jobs, when you're putting American lives at risk. In addition to that, when you're trying to push for these measures, you're putting American businesses out of business. Vic, your business will be affected. I know Bobby
100%.
is scrambling to change a little bit of his business so that he's not so deeply affected. But there are thousands of other small businesses across the country that will be affected by this. So if you truly cared about American jobs, then you wouldn't be pushing for these measures. Now, we can definitely have the conversation where we're proponents of American technology, and to try to cut the red tape, as Pete Hegseth said, to try to bolster our manufacturing here in the United States. That's fine. But to think that we're only going to be able to do it here in the drone industry is naive, arrogant, and idiotic. I mean, what we really need to do is
And
move the entire
disingenuous.
yeah, we need to move the entire tech sector, at least a portion of it, a big section of it. The drone industry is actually a very small industry in the bigger tech world, and we need to start moving some of those jobs, some of that manufacturing over to enable a lot of it. And back to the point that you were making, Lewis. It is frustrating that we don't see a little bit more. I know that the local DJI guys are working hard behind the scenes, and they don't,
Yeah.
they're not overly vocal like their opposition is, but it would be great if we could see it a little bit more, but I think by design they're kind of keeping it behind closed doors. But like, for example, to go back to Michael Robbins' disingenuous testimony the other day, he actually was telling the Congress people there, well, in the committee, that DJI recently removed all of their geofences, as if that was a bad thing. And so now all these people are going to be able to fly in controlled airspace. And his terminology was even wrong when the manner in which he was speaking to the committee there. But I mean, painfully obvious that he has no aviation experience or even experience with drones in the first place. But he was trying to paint DJI as the bad guy for removing the geofences when they were the only ones that did the geofences in the first place. All the American drones, none of them have geofences up or doing the right thing, as he was trying to portray DJI as doing the bad thing. DJI was just doing what the industry was demanding of them. The industry was wanting them to go away from the geofencing because it was so frustrating for prosumers and these small business owners, and even the agriculture people that operate near airports were having a hard time spraying the fields. So it was just DJI answering to and doing that which the American companies were already doing. And so that's just another example of how Michael Robbins was so disingenuous and dishonest in the way that he presented that to the committee. So I just don't know how anybody can support AUVSI with how dishonest they are. It's sickening.
Wasn't
Okay.
the I was
I want
under
to
the
hold on just a
impression.
second, Lewis. Sorry.
Right.
I want to say something real quick about AUVSI. I am an AUVSI member, so I want to say that up front. I do not speak for AUVSI National, but I am on the leadership committee for AUVSI Rocky Mountain. And if you look at what the chapters are doing, they're doing good work. Here in Colorado, we've hired a lobbyist to try and get a state preemption bill, an AUVSI drone prepared program. Love it. But it's the chapter level. It's not the national level.
Well, and all the
chapters are doing
chapters,
some phenomenal work. Georgia chapter is doing phenomenal work. New York chapter doing some phenomenal work. But that's
yeah,
the
but if they're
chapter level.
supporting national, then they're being somewhat, that erases a lot of their good that they're doing as well.
I can't
But
say a whole lot, but I will say, how can I say this? There is conversations where most chapters don't agree with what's going on at national. Let's just say that.
Well, and I
Chapters are
know,
different entities. We're our
But
own
you can't vote them out.
501c6.
well, I
No,
know national is making life very hard for the state chapters. In
100%.
addition to that, all the state chapters report back to who? Aaron Pierce.
I
And
can't
Aaron
remember who
Pierce,
at this point.
yeah, Pierce isn't going to say or do anything that's going to disrupt his contracts with the federal government. He's pushing. It's such a conflict of interest to have him in the position where he is. It's sickening.
And the AVSI National just removed all the state pages from their website too.
Right.
All the chapter pages. Sorry. So,
The
and there's other
chapter should
things I'd
just
love to
break
talk
away.
about, but I can't.
Yeah, the chapter should just break away, maintain
As
some
far,
level of integrity.
Or
as
lobby
far
them.
as the geofencing, I was under the impression that DJI was forced to get rid of the geofencing because there were claims that they're the ones that were enforcing the airspace with drones, and it shouldn't be DJI doing it. And I thought that was the reason why they got rid of geofencing.
Oh, it was a no-win situation.
Right?
Absolutely. You
Because then
saw all kinds of testimony that said, look, they're not letting you fly here. And so they said, okay, we'll get rid of it. Look, they're letting you fly here. Same people saying the same thing, different arguments, depending on whether or not geofencing was active or not. So they're just lying out their posterior, shall
Michael
we say.
Robbins lying.
He's not the only one. There are plenty on the Hill that are saying, look, Stefanik, our wonderful friend Stefanik and Moulinar, they bitched and moaned about geofencing. And then when DJI said, okay, we get it, we understand. And they knew this was a no-win situation from the get-go. When they removed geofencing, Stefanik and Moulinar, look, they removed geofencing and they're letting their drones fly anywhere. It's a no frickin' win situation for DJI in this particular instance. And they knew it going in.
You know what they were hoping for, Vic? They were hoping that once it got removed, somebody would do something stupid with a DJI drone, and then they would run with it. That's exactly what they were hoping.
They who? The congressional folks?
Yeah, that's what they were hoping for.
Make sure you weren't saying they DJI.
Oh,
you're right.
No.
We can't forget in Michael Robbins' testimony, he was saying that talking about removing the geofencing and is now making it more dangerous for like that helicopter that hit, or that drone that hit the helicopter in Texas. Holy cow, that was one of the most blatant, misleading statements that he could have. That was a cop helicopter. That was a police helicopter, part of the operation.
It was a military helicopter.
Military helicopter. I'm talking about the drone. The drone belonged to
the drone was it had permission, and it had permission to fly 400 feet, and the helicopter did not have permission to fly below 400 feet.
But Michael Robbins portrayed it to the committee like as if it was some rogue entity, and it was there because DJI removed the geofences. He was so disingenuous and just misleading in that testimony. when that was, that was something that, I belong to a group that we go around and we try to teach and educate different drone pilots and also helicopter pilots to try to merge the two different the worlds together, the manned and unmanned, and try to bring them together, because it's shocking how, like, so I'm sure a lot of people don't know this. I'm an airline pilot, and so when I'm flying around with other commercial airline pilots, how few of them actually know anything about drones, about how they work, their regulations. They know so little about it. But then you talk to drone pilots, and it's shocking, even though they might have their Part 107, it's shocking how little they know or understand about the manned aviation world. And so trying to blend these two industries together has been a bit challenging. Recently we had a conference where we brought in the Department of Public Safety in to talk, those helicopter pilots to talk from their perspective. And then we had another drone pilot and me up there to try to kind of bridge the gap, talking, as perspective from both sides, to try to educate the other drone pilots what it's like for those helicopter pilots that are up in the air, why it's so important that um, we drone pilots treat these drones as aircraft, because the consequences of any kind of neglect that we participate in can be absolutely deadly. And so we were just trying to pound that issue in. But so that's where those conversations should be had when we're trying to do those joint operations, manned aviation with unmanned aviation. It shouldn't be up on the hill in committee where a representative from AUVSI is trying to paint DJI as the bad person by saying they removed their geofencing and that's the cause for this unmanned and manned aircraft collision. It's so incredibly frustrating, and it just further paints that he's straight up a politician and should not be the person up there advocating on behalf of the industry.
By the
How's
way,
he
a
getting so much
geofencing
face
would
time
not
in
have.
DC?
Oh, it's money. A
Yeah.
geofencing would not have stopped that drone from taking off during the TFR. Wouldn't have.
Well,
So,
yeah, the drone pilot had permission to be in the TFR.
yeah.
It was lack of communication, lack of crew resource management.
CRM.
Yeah,
It's hard.
that's
It's
what it
hard to.
was.
It's hard to mitigate those operations. I guess the only way that you can do it is the drone pilot would have to have ADS-B up, right? Because from the helicopter pilot, there's really nothing, right? So that means that the drone pilot would have to have ADS-B up. They would have to see that the helicopter's there. That's so. There's no talks about, hey, going forward, how can we get both to talk, right? Because I guess the only way to mitigate any of that is having the drone pilot always have an ADS-B up and seeing if there's any aircraft, any manned aircraft in the area.
The North
rely on
Carolina was a
ADS-B.
great example of that. We had, I wasn't there. I shouldn't include myself in that. North Carolina had flight directors the whole freaking time they were up there doing all that damage stuff. And even then, you had the disaster tourists up there in helicopters being dicks. I mean, I'm sorry, but I've heard from people that there were helicopters flying low, and the flight commander said, "Hey, you guys need to get up." He got on the aviation band and said, "You guys need to get up. We have drones in the area," and one did, and one said, "Who's gonna pay the ultimate price in a helicopter if you hit a drone? If that rear rotor hits a drone, who's going to pay that price?" The stupidity of some of these people, and I'm not painting helicopter pilots in a big brush. We both know helicopter pilots, and they're great people. But some of them, the arrogance they display at the risk of their lives is incomprehensible.
Well, same with motorcycle drivers, right? The motorcyclists.
I'm not going there.
Yeah, it's much the same way, but that's Lewis, not to pick on you, but that is the typical response from drone pilots is ADS-B. You have to have your ADS-B up, but ADS-B is not required for unmanned aircraft. It's only required in certain areas. It's not even required in Class Delta airspace. It's only required inside the Mode C Veil. Yeah, which when you're out there like in North Carolina or down there in Texas, you're outside of that. ADS-B is not required. And so that requires you, the whole scene of void that the FAA puts out. So when we do our recurrent every 2 years, or when you took the initial 107, the FAA catchphrase is see and avoid, see and avoid. You need to make sure you have your ears open, your eyes up to be able to see what's going on. Have that visual observer out. Communication, if you're in joint operations, make sure you're, if you're on you can't do it on the aviation band radio, radios because that's an FCC regulation, but
Yep.
you can on the police band radios, you can be talking to the DPS or the military pilots. You can be talking to them on those frequencies, and then it's all communication. You cannot rely on ADSB. Cannot, absolutely
No,
cannot. Even
it's a
inside, if you're
fallacy.
inside the MOTSI veil. So even where you are, Lewis, there are exceptions. So as long as that pilot calls the air traffic controllers before they enter that MOTSI, and they get permission long before they're on an instrument flight plan, and they get cleared in, then knowing that they don't have ADSB or the mode C, then that can still happen as well. The controllers can permit it. So
I live
it's
inside a mode C veil, and I'll pull up flight radar. And if we have military flying over, and we do a lot because we have Buckley near us, if we have military, we also have the Holy Tony's Flying Pumpkin. So the air evac helicopters, we call them Holy Tony's Flying Pumpkins because they're orange. They don't necessarily broadcast either.
Yep.
right. Yeah, there are exceptions to that rule. We
Uh-huh.
can't. We as drone pilots cannot, should not,
Nope.
should never rely on ADSB. It
A
should
great
be
secondary. Great
right.
secondary.
Nothing
Never a
replaces your
primary.
ears or your eyes. Always. Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, that was kind of a tangent to end. Yeah. Michael Robbins. I wish if he's watching, please come on with us. Let's talk.
I would
I know
love to
that.
sit down with them
Oh my gosh.
again.
Yeah, Mike, that one webinar that Vic, you and I
Mhm.
did with him with
Mhm.
DJ. DJ was awesome.
Love DJ.
He put them in a corner and finally got them to admit that the cybersecurity concerns are not a concern if certain measures are taken, like with the air gapping, putting it in a sandbox. But that whole opening monologue by Michael Robbins, I mean, that was a telltale sign that he was insecure in his positions, and he wanted to lay it out and make us defend it, or make us put us on the defensive immediately. And it wasn't an honest conversation on his part. And I would love to sit down and talk to him and try to truly get to where his motivations are. I actually question as to whether or not he's been being told the right information. I don't know who's telling him or giving him the information, but as boots on the ground, I can tell you that the things that he's saying is just simply not true. So I question the people that he has around him. People that I've talked to that know him personally say that he's a good guy and that he's trying to do the right thing. But the evidence that we are seeing with him testifying, the words that are coming out of his mouth, the motives and the procedures and the policies that he's pushing for are deadly. They're disingenuous. They're dishonest. They're misleading. And I would just like to be able to sit down with him and find out the actual truth behind it all.
And their industry destroying. $53
Yes.
billion industry by 2030 will be dead if what he wants to happen will happen. In 2.5 years, it will be dead. And then once Skydio and all those folks and those other American manufacturers start to put something out that we can use, the 90% of us who don't fly enterprise, although I do have some back there, you're going to have to rebuild the industry from the ground up.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the rest of the world is going to be going forward.
Oh yeah, the rest of the world's like, "Huh, you guys are stupid." Yeah.
He'll never come on and go face to face. And same thing with Adam. Bobby and I have tried numerous times directly to him, to other people at Skydio, until that he knows better than to go on, and you'll never see him on.
Well, he
I wrote
agreed
an
to come
olive
out
branch
to.
art. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, he agreed. So he was actually talking to Lewis and me for a little bit and engaging in conversation with us. And I told him, please come on out to Utah. I will show you how bad the X10 behaves or performs here in the mountains. And I'll show you how it returns the home. It doesn't make it. Now, we can't rely on 4G in the mountains. And, for DFR, sure, 4G works fine, whatever. The Skydio X10 works fine. DFR is actually one of the simpler things, for a drone to do. But to send it downrange, I challenged him, come on up. I'll show you exactly. He chickened out and he immediately blocked both Lewis and me and you, Vic. He blocked us all and didn't want to engage in conversations anymore.
Yeah, it was last summer, right? That he wanted us to go out. He wanted us to go out to San Francisco.
Yep.
And then he blocked us. And
But if
it.
you're in
That was-
YPD and you have a problem, Adam will get on a plane tomorrow and go see what's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately,
Yes.
he just cares about the bottom line, right? That's why he's saying the things that he's saying. That's why he's not going to care to
Profits over American lives. He cares more about profits over life.
Profits are
at least.
great. I run a business. I like profits, but at what expense?
Yeah. At least that's the way it looks from the outside. I don't want to put motives or words in his mouth, but based off of his actions and what he says and does, it comes across that his priority is profits over life.
And he can join the podcast if he wants,
Yeah.
to prove himself.
He,
But
he never he never will. He never will. It's even going back to the video that we were talking about, and the drones are all flying and the pamphlet gets delivered and all that stuff. And it's almost like he's proud of like the drones. And it's like, 90% of the public safety agencies in this country that are flying drones are flying, even if they have older drones, they're flying equipment that's better than what you're showcasing here. And you're so proud of what you're showing, right?
I like that. I like that X10 in the forward.
Right.
The one in the background. It's like, dude, come on. It could have been the pilot. Let's be fair. It could have been the pilot without a lot of stick time, but I've flown an X10 and it doesn't look a whole lot different when I fly it. I've got thousands of hours on the sticks.
I heard they filmed that all with a DJI drone. Did you hear that?
I have no idea.
what? No,
I doubt it. I really do, because it was DC.
funny.
Be funny though.
They flew from across the street, so they were good.
There you go. Exactly.
Well, all of that, I fly on DoD property with my DJI equipment. I've published videos of me doing it, flying with the military with my DJI equipment. And it all can be done and is done. I mean, not only on training ranges, but also on Air Force bases. I've flown those drones with their permission. The actual, you remove yourself from the politics in the military. They just want the best equipment that does the job and gets it done in the most efficient manner possible. And that's sincerely all they want. And according to the experts, I know that there's particular experts on LinkedIn that think that they're smarter than everybody else and just share the same screenshots from
But they're stuck from 8 years in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But according to the so-called experts, now I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but according to the ones that have studied it and done it and everything, you are capable of sandboxing and securing these drones. DroneSense, for example. DroneSense is NDA compliant. So I wish we had a cybersecurity standard, because that's what they do with all their laptops.
Gee, I wonder if
computers
ASTM has
and everything
one of
else.
those.
I mean, if we had like an actual standard, regardless of where anything was made, just like all the computers that are made in every skiff around the world, those chips and everything are made in countries that are not NDA compliant, but they have a cybersecurity standard. If we could just come out with that, just be done with it.
Who knows?
Bingo,
Right, but
done.
The green list. That could be the next step. Maybe
Stupid
they'll make a
green
yellow
list.
list. And
The yellow list. No, not yellow list. We can't use yellow.
I heard someone the other day. I had a conversation with someone from one of the federal agencies, and his claim was, okay, if DJI passes all the tests now, the fear is that down the road they can pass a firmware update that then they can take control of the drones again and get all your information. So it's like, okay, well, the threat's not now, it's if they push a firmware update, right? So then, Kyle, what you were just talking about now, like even with federal agencies, like a cell phone, right? And they can be using Apple's, right? If an iOS update gets pushed, those cell phones can't do the update itself until the update is vetted through the agency, right?
Right.
So the agency vets the update, then it gets pushed out to the users. So why can't we do the same? Let's say hypothetically in a perfect world, okay, DJI drones are allowed, but they have to be on US servers, which they are, right? But if there's any updates that need to come out, right, they get vetted by whatever agency is using that drone. If that update passes, right, then we push it to the user, right? So there's no communication between the drone and whatever claims are being made.
Yeah,
And
but that's
if
logical.
you look at DJI right now, I've got 9 DJIs back there and 1 Skydio. I have an S2 I have to fly for a certain client. None of my DJIs, except for the Mavic 3 Enterprise, are connected to the internet. And the Mavic 3 Enterprise is connected to an RTK network. So yeah, there could be some monkey business going on. Every time I turn on that Skydio, it connects to the internet to check things. Every single
Single time.
time. It says right there, uploading data log. Every
Yep.
single time, or downloading. I don't remember what. Every single time that controller says connecting, uploading. Every
Yep.
single time.
IoT device. And then to expand that out, the X10, when it's out there on 4G connectivity, I mean, it's receiving its connectivity through the interwebs. I want to address Tanner Dunn's question that he just
I've
posted
not been
in
watching that.
on the chat, where he's challenging us or asking us what steps have we taken to help facilitate the success of American drone manufacturers. I was a Skydio alpha and beta tester. I was part of the team with the S2. I was part of the team with the X2. I supported them through, it was all through COVID. And even doing videos thanking Skydio and saying how cool their equipment, the S2, was when it first came out. And when it first came out, the obstacle avoidance on it was pretty cool. Trying to fly it on a NIST course, though, is horrendous. If you're flying even an X10, if you're flying an X10 on a NIST course, they give you a handicap because the X10 is so hard to control with any sort of precision. So I have helped them. So talk if you want further evidence, Tanner. SciFly. I've been helping SciFly. Send Aerosystems. There are a number of American companies that I have helped to help develop their products. Different drone companies send me products all the time to test, either for a week or for a month or even for a year, to help try to test and develop it. And I give them my honest feedback. So to say that we don't support American products, we absolutely do. And
100%.
we would 100% support Skydio and Brink if they didn't lobby to that endangers American lives. And that's sincerely where our beef is. If they just didn't lobby to take away my life-saving tool from me, I would absolutely support them and push their product and sing their praises and say, when it comes to drones, there's not ever one drone that is best for every single scenario. There are some drones out there that fill more roles than others, but there's not a single tool, not a single aircraft that fills every single role. Look at airlines, for example, or the military, multiple aircraft to do different mission sets. And that's the way drones are as well. You're not going to use the Matrice 30 to go take for a cinematography project. You're going to take a cinematography drone. You're not going to take a cinematography drone on a SAR mission, even though it could be done. It's just not ideal. So there's a lot of different mission sets where the X10 could be useful, could be invaluable, especially with the AI that they have built into it. Now, I actually hate the AI because I want to be able to fly the drone. I want to be able to stay in full control of it. I don't want to send it a request and hope that the drone does what it is that I'm asking it to do. But there's lots that we have done to support American drone manufacturers. And just because we're hypercritical of a select few for their lobbying efforts, doesn't mean that we don't support American manufacturing at all.
That's what Tanner, that's what Tanner needs to understand, is that our beef is with the lobbying, right? Because if Skydio hadn't gone down that road and Brink, right? Even though Brink's they've been kind of quiet lately, so they must be up to something. But if they hadn't gone down that lobbying road, they would have support from public safety. Public safety would be like, hey, yes, we'll test it out. I'll give you my feedback, what needs to be improved, what doesn't. We would more than we would do that for them, right? But the fact that they went down the lobbying road, where now they're taking equipment away from first responders, right, that need it. I don't know what Tanner does for a living, but I need my reliable drone, right? If I go out there and I fly for 5 hours, right? A few months ago, I got called to a job where they tried using the best of the worst, and it was an escape. They were looking for some people that escaped from a holding facility, and it was at nighttime, and I had to go out there with my M30 because they couldn't do anything with the best of the worst, right? They couldn't, and I was out there for 5 hours, and you know what, Tanner, every time I landed my drone and I hot swapped the batteries and I sent the drone back up in the air, I knew what to expect. I knew that the drone was going to do it. That's when I say, And I say it all the time, reliability, right? And not even cost effective, right? But the fact that it's reliable, because I would have no problem paying more for a DJI drone because I know what to expect. It's reliable, right? But the fact that they went and they lobbied against it, right? That's where things, that's where things went, kind of they took the wrong turn, right? And
Right.
that's the issue that we have. We have the issue that they're trying to lobbying to take equipment away.
And Tanner,
Yeah.
I've done the same thing. I had one American drone company and one Japanese drone company. You can fill in the blank. Send me their drones, myself and Kenji, and we flew them and we gave them their feedback. And I guess the nicest way to put it is neither one of those drones are ready for prime time. And it's that type of feedback they need to get. But as soon as somebody hears it, they don't necessarily want to hear it, I think is the best way to put that. And
Agreed.
then you have engineers in certain companies who don't fly drones for a living. They are great engineers, but when you try and do something and engineer something that you need to fly on paper and on CAD, that's a phenomenal drone. You put the sticks to it, it's like, yeah, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Going
I
off
had
your
a
point, we also did a lot of testing, especially in the early days when Skydio had their S2 and they released the SDK for doing automated flight paths. And this is back when we were trying to support as many drones as possible within the Skybrowse Flight app. We didn't have universal upload where you can upload any video into Skybrowse, so it was only specific drone videos. So Skydio reached out for their SDK. We're like, yeah, we'll take a look. And ultimately, their SDK just wasn't good. It couldn't do the things we wanted it to do, which was really basic stuff. A Skybrowse orbit is just two circles. That's it. A
Mhm.
wide browse is a grid pattern. It's a lawnmower grid pattern back and forth. It records a video, does a grid pattern, records the GPS logs, and that's it. But like we took an honest chance on them, and it just didn't work out. So that's why we don't support them in our flight app.
no, Tanner, we have not created a hate group.
Oh, absolutely not a hate group.
Well, that's an appropriate
That's
comment,
silly.
Tanner.
That's an absolutely silly comment.
No.
I'm sorry. I will use other language, but
The
my
memes and the
pastors may see
hate
this later.
speech, the hate speech.
There is no support for them right now. We were discussing it. There's no support because their lobbying efforts. It's going to cost
That's
American lives.
that's the key. It's the lobbying. It's not the aircraft. Yes, there are issues with the aircraft, which we've addressed, but it's not the aircraft. It's not the company. I have friends at Skydio. I'm sure you three too as well. I don't want to see them fail, but if they can succeed on their merit, boom, that's the American way. The American way has changed to I'm going to legislate instead of innovate, and that's what they're doing.
But
And they need to frickin' stop.
Vic, they were doing well, right? Because they had the federal government on lockdown, right? They were selling to federal government. They should have just, and then they're like, they got greedy. Okay, well, either the feds are not buying our drones, federal contract, maybe they weren't making enough money. They're like, all right, let's just go after all the public safety. Let's start lobbying state by state and see where that takes us. Like,
Yep.
it's just gotten so greedy. And if they would have done it, if they would have stayed on that path, okay, let's just stay with the federal agencies. We'll perfect our drone. We'll get input from the end users, right? See, and make a good drone, and then we'll approach public safety, right? But they're cheating, right? They're going straight to lobbying and to state, and they're trying to see what state will bite, and then they'll move on to the next one, and it's not good. So that's our issue with that, man.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I
State
didn't
Armor
care-
and Brink hired lobbyists last year in Colorado for last session. Nothing came of it. I think it's because we got in front of it. But I have a very funny feeling we're going to see something next session in October of this year where they're going to try and do that here. And I got news for you. I'm going to pull 150 drone pilots to testify at the Capitol that day. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
And some of them will be badge-wearing folks. Whether or not they're allowed to wear their badge at that particular time, we'll see.
Compete on merit. That's what you hit the nail on the head. Compete on merit. And that is the American way. Don't legislate out your competition. That's just straight up cowardly. Or use people or pay people like AUVSI or groups like AUVSI to do your dirty work for you. I mean,
And
for
if you
an
think
agency,
about it, if you're using the government to make your company successful, that is the Communist Manifesto, and they are fighting a communist country. I get it. I get it. I'm not a fan of CBP, but I'm sorry, CBP
CC,
either.
CBP.
CCP.
Both.
CCP. Too many freaking letters. But what they're accusing others of doing, they are exactly doing.
Yeah.
Show us your drone, make it better, make us want it, make us fly it, and we will, even if it costs more, because we are Americans first.
They so even like their hiring practices, right? So they could have gotten feedback for free from public safety end users, right? Or any end user, right? So it seems like everybody that's prior law enforcement working at Skydio basically got hired after they purchased a drone, right? Or had their department purchase a drone, right? Or, kind of like I kind of see that maybe going that route with NYPD. Certain people probably have enough years in that they're going to retire, and it's like, all right, why is there so much attention going to the use of Skydio drones now? And then you see that shift in the past. Certain people, and then all of a sudden they retire a few months into it. They're head of a department at Skydio, or success manager at Skydio. So it seems like that's what they're even that they're buying public safety, right? We want to show that we hire public safety. Yeah, but you're hiring them because they purchased your drone for their department and then they retired right away.
Well,
The term "sold their souls" comes to
Yeah,
mind.
exactly. Yeah.
In the chat again, Sean Campbell. What's up, Sean?
Love you, Sean.
Brings up a good point. He is talking about the Stinger by gosh, I just forgot.
That's not an Orca, is it?
No, it's oh shoot, Modal AI, who makes the Stinger. But that is a perfect example of American ingenuity gone insane, because there's nothing nice or cool about that Stinger. It's very basic. It looks very basic, and just like what Sean was saying, that he could make one overnight. When I trained with, I can't say which group, but it was an NSW group, SEAL group. They had their own FPV drone that they built, and we went over it. They were showing it to me, and of course, all of it was built with non-NDA compliant components, but none of it touched the internet. It's all something that they program and do themselves with an IR cut camera on front of it. But it was all because they don't want to pay for or do anything that is NDA compliant or on the blue list, because it all sucks. They wanted to build their own. They did their own research, and it was actually just one of the SEALs took it on himself to figure it out, and he was flying it insanely well during the exercise that I was participating in. Which, if you guys, I was thankful. It was actually pretty fun. I was actually on a rifle and in a maneuver. And if you guys haven't been caught in an L ambush by a bunch of our Navy SEALs, you haven't lived. Holy cow.
I'm okay with not living then. I don't want to do
Yeah, me
that.
too.
Wow. I'll tell you what, those guys are so amazing, and I'm so glad they're on our team. But those simunitions hurt when they're properly aimed, and we got lit up. But anyway, and it was they found us all because of their FPV drone that they developed themselves and were flying around themselves, that they put together for under $500. But the Modal AI Stinger is over $6,000.
It's right at $6,000. Yep.
What about the lemur? What about the lemur, Kyle? Remember
the lemur.
In the beginning, the lemur was like $30,000, and I think there's still posts online. Remember, Bobby, somebody had broken down they had broken down like the components in a lemur, and you can buy some of the source the components on Amazon and build it for like a few $100, and these guys were selling it for 300. Or even the Cinewap. The Cinewap drones were better than a lemur, and you could build it at home yourself.
Yeah, but the lemur doesn't work unless you hide repeaters inside.
I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah, yes. There was an incident that happened, right? Where
we talked about it the last Drones After Dark. Yeah. That happened, but it's insane. I mean, that the modal. Thanks for that correction, Sean. Modal AI. That drone that they've come out with is American engineering gone screwy. I mean, that's exactly where we're heading with this silly NDA compliant blue list non-sensory. But guys, we've been going for a while. I don't know how much longer we're going to go for this, but I wanted to talk about Wingtra and the awesome stuff that Wingtra is doing. Are you guys familiar with Wingtra?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They're a company that I wish they were American. I wish they were American, but they're Swiss,
They're Swiss,
and
yeah.
but they're a fantastic company that has a product, and they actually listen to their end users and make adjustments accordingly. They sent one of their employees out to Utah, and we did testing for a full week. Took their aircraft out into the wild, out into the mountains, and we did some wild and crazy stuff with that Wingtra, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it's going to feel, it's not going to be the end all be all drone for search and rescue, but it is going to fill a role that is not currently available on the marketplace with their software and the things that they're coming up with over there. But if we could get, I mean, we talked about engineers, Vic, that when you send back your review of their product, those engineers, they get, you know, you just told them you just told them that their baby was ugly. You have an ugly baby. And they get so emotional and wrapped up into it. But, you know, when it comes down to it, the truth, you know, if something's not performing, it's not performing. And so that's what happened with me and Skydio. I told when I was alpha testing some of their software with the S2, and just told them how terrible it was, like that version of it. And man, that one particular guy that wrote the software that I was communicating with, he didn't talk to me for a while because I told him his baby was ugly. I mean, it wasn't working. What do you want me to say? Oh, you're so pretty. You're great. You're so awesome. And a lot of these engineers are like that. You tell them that the product sucks or it just isn't working, and they get all butthurt, and then they don't want to talk to you anymore. But it's
Yeah, but
frustrating.
if they're out in the field using it, they would see it for themselves, right? Instead of,
Right.
you
But
know,
they don't know
that's
how to
that
use it. The vast
they
majority of
don't.
them don't even know how to use it, or how to,
Exactly.
or what our needs are. That, and that's one of the Skydio mantras is we're going to tell you what
You,
you
yep.
need, rather than the end user saying, hey, we have this need. We need the drone to do X, Y, and Z. Can you please make it do that? Or a small, like, little thing here, like Brink, for example, is putting out in all their advertisement that this is an aircraft that was designed and built for SWAT scenarios, not
Yeah.
modified for it. And of course, my response to that is, well, once it's capable of doing that, you know, actually performing the manner in which you're claiming that it is, then and doesn't cost 14 times the amount of a VADA, we're going to keep on modifying our VADA. Modifying. All we're doing is putting like headlights
Putting
on it.
lights on it.
Yeah,
That's all it
that's it.
is. That's all it. And you know what's crazy is, and I've said this a bunch of times. If DJI in the beginning, when they came out the Mini One, if they had made an Enterprise Mini One in the beginning, I don't think Brink would even exist because you know their whole gimmick was, oh, it's our tactical indoor drone. But if DJI had made an Enterprise Mini, right, even before the Avadas, and put some lights on it, or you know, it's whatever, even a crappy thermal sensor, right, you're sending it indoors. I don't think Brink would exist because they would have never gotten the momentum, right? You know, the buy-in. Well, you know, they had all the VC money backing them up, and you know, whatever they were washing money with in Vegas, and you know, donating the equipment and saying it was being sold and showing the profits, and it was all infused by the VC. But whatever, if DJI had done that with the Mini, I don't think Brink would exist.
They should do it with this.
Right? Yes. Even
Disposable
cheaper.
drone.
Yeah, even
Disposable
cheaper. Right?
drone. Yep.
Make it out of foam. Make it out of foam or something.
Oh, there you go. I love that idea.
Well, and then Brink's response to that is that we offer free replacements or repairs and replacements if your drone goes down or whatever, and that's all fine and dandy if
But they
you can get the
don't.
replacement. If you can, if they
I
actually,
have copies of sales records. I have copies of, and this is, I asked for it. People sent them to me. I can't share them yet. That what it costs per drone when it comes to Brink is ludicrous. Ludicrous. And you have to pay that yearly fee if you want a replacement, which is basically the cost of a new drone.
and then while it's getting fixed, you go without. Whereas you spend less than a quarter of the cost of the lemur, buy two Avadas, and
199.
then or one of those,
The
you
Neos, yeah.
can you can keep flying while another one is getting lost. Or the cost of a new Avata is cheaper than the annual cost for that lemur. I
Much
mean,
cheaper.
Much
the
cheaper.
I was participating in a SWAT scenario. It's still, everything is still pending, but the guy that was inside the house had a suicide vest on. I don't know if Brink will, and then of course he blew himself up. I don't think Brink would have replaced that drone.
No.
I mean, the video is awesome, but they wouldn't have replaced that drone.
Gross.
I'm joking. I'm joking. The video
You're
is
telling me
awesome.
that the two-way communication didn't work?
No, it was I was using an Avada, and I did lose an Avada inside the house. But
Every once in a while, I get excited because I hear the rumors. Oh, they're coming out with an enterprise Avada, and then you hear it for a little bit, and all of a sudden it's like then you get people saying, "No, it's not coming out," and you're like, "Damn, why not?" Right?
so back to our frustrations with DJI. What's up? I'm sorry, Bobby.
So has a good comment as well. He says that we consider every Avada indoor flight as a one-way mission.
Oh yeah, it's a
Of
good
course.
comment.
Yeah. Hey, what's up,
That-
Chris? We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Shout out to Chris.
The majority of Avadas purchased, you can do it without having to do a purchase order, right? Imagine like you crash your lemur or the Stinger, right? You can't just go and here's a receipt for another one, right? You're gonna have to probably go into wait until the budget for the following year. You have to put in for unless you have like insurance, I guess you can put an insurance claim for it. But the Avadas are disposal because you could crash it, and you can even my suggestion, I could probably go on Amazon, order another one, and submit for reimbursement for it because it's under that price point.
Yep. 100%.
Hey, before we get too far, because I know we have to wrap it up pretty soon, can we talk real quick about the 232?
Yes, please.
The floor is yours, Vic.
The floor is mine. Awesome. DroneServiceProvider.org, DSPalliance.org. Go to our newsroom, and I put out a post today, an article today, a very dry article, by the way, not one of my usual articles. The BIS, so Bureau of Industry and Security, not Industry and Security. My brain just left me. Bureau of Industry and Security, Department of Commerce. They put out a request for comments with a 21-day deadline, so it's now a 20-day deadline, asking about the economic / national security of imports. So the economic impact and national security of imports. So read that. Make sure you comment. As of this afternoon, there were 42 comments, and it's only been out a day, so that's exciting. I couldn't read any of the comments because it didn't say, but dspalliance.org, go to that, spread it around, and make sure you get comments on, because a lot of it is talking about the Chinese, and it's not DJI specific, but that's who it targets. About how the reliance on DJI in the UAS industry, and Skydio and others. And of course, if you talk about recreational, everything's Chinese. Then what it would do to the economic importance and the national security of the country. And the economic is huge because it would kill, like I said, a $50 billion plus industry by 2030. So make sure you comment on that. That's my only plug. So please do.
You do good work with that. Thank you for what you did.
I tried.
Putting all that out, Vic.
Again, not a lawyer, art degree. Take it with a grain of salt.
Vic, what other stuff do you want to touch on before we wrap it up? Like as far as like any pending things or
Oh yeah. BV loss NPRM. I'm a DSP is a member of CDA now, which a lot of people weren't happy about. So trust me, it's a good thing. We had a meeting today. The BV loss NPRM should be out, and this is them guessing and me guessing. Next week, it's the TSA and the FAA are doing this, but they're almost doing this. So once they do that, that will be out. It will probably be a 45-day comment period, possibly extended to 60. So that's going to be huge for this industry. It also might be an 800 to 900-page NPRM. So set aside a couple days for that. So that'll be really, really important. And then the 2209 NPRM, the security, critical infrastructure security, airspace thing, which is, 2016, 9 years late. That NPRM should be out soon thereafter. So those are two very, very important NPRMs that'll be out for the industry within the next week or 2 or 3 or 4. But the BV loss NPRM is a huge thing that needs to be addressed ASAP once it's dropped.
Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions, just ask Vic GPT. He's got
Vic at dspalliance.org. I will put that out there.
There it is. There it is.
I love it.
Bobby, I think we need an Agent Vic AI to answer
Oh
this
Lordy.
question.
Every single
Well, the video, the thing for the video with me sitting on the dock was pretty funny, but it did look like I was incredibly constipated. So I do want to say that was not my
Well, then we
doing.
should, if that's the case, we should have put you on a different dock.
Yeah, let's say the best of the worst.
The
What do
barbecue,
you
the
what do you
barbecue
think?
grill.
What do you think is going to happen in, let's say, 5 months when certain things are not, certain requirements are not met? What do we, as end users, what are some of the issues we
Okay.
might have?
So let me get my crystal ball out. I am, and I've said this many times, I'm the eternal optimist. Even after everything I've had to do in DC the last 2 years, I still think that cooler heads will prevail, that they will look and say, if we do this, or if we don't do that, in this particular instance with the 1709 audit, the industry is going to just go belly up. First responder fleets are going to be dead in the water in 2 years, if not longer, because first responders crash a lot of drones. It's because of the missions they fly. It's not a comment on them. It's a comment on the missions they fly. They have to sacrifice their drones for the betterment of people. I think cooler heads will prevail, and they will either do the audit or worst case scenario, which is actually at this point so late in the game, probably the best case scenario, extend it. So if when we see the fiscal year 2026 NDAA, hopefully there will be a 1709 extension. That's what we're hoping for. Best case scenario, we do the audit, everything's good, which is what we expect. Different agencies sign off on it, and they say, okay, good. And then all these people that have been bitching about Social Security, about national security for all these years have to eat crow. I would love to see that. That's a personal thing. But if not, then I'm really hoping for the extension. I think that's a reasonable compromise, is to get the extension if we don't have it, because it's so unfair to everybody who flies DJI, Autel, Specta, and Anzu. Randall will
We
be
can't
just as
forget it.
affected as we are.
We
Right.
can't
So,
forget Enzu.
yep.
I've had a lot of questions. People are like, "Oh, why don't they?" Because it seems like with the current administration, a lot of things are resolved when they sit at the table and they come up with some sort of, let's say Apple as an example, right? So I guess Apple was pardoned because they're going to set up manufacturing, or assembly in the U.S., right? I think that's that's what they agreed on, which probably will never happen. But so I've been asked, why doesn't DJI do the same? Why don't they, sit at the table and say, okay, we'll bring assembly and manufacturing to the US. Maybe generate, we'll help the industry more, right? Because now we'll have assembly here in the US. We'll foster new
American
engineers,
jobs.
right? American jobs, all that stuff. What if
What
what if that happened?
it would be awesome, but let's look at it from DJI's perspective. You've got all this anti-DJI either proposed or already passed. Why would they invest the millions of dollars for American manufacturing if they have no guarantee that in 2 years they won't be allowed to sell their stuff? So you got to get the cart before the horse. You have to do things like, okay, we promise we'll lay off. We'll promise we'll turn these Florida and all this crap back, and let you come into the United States and let you set up manufacturing. That's got to happen before anybody in their right mind, DJI, Motorola,
Right.
Hyundai, whoever, before anybody, Motorola, I'm dating myself, before anybody would be dumb enough to invest that kind of money with no guarantee at all. You have to have the cart before
Makes
the horse.
sense.
Yep. All
And
right.
before you sign us off, Bobby, if I could just take 2 seconds, for you guys that are watching all this, there are certain things that are inherently damaging to this industry. One of which is not being that guy. As we
Please.
watch Greg's, weekly updates and those things that you see in the news, do not be that guy. So I just want to put a plug out there for aviation safety. Please educate yourself, crew resource management, aeronautical decision-making, threat and error management. Get out there, educate yourself more on aviation best practices. Make sure you're seeing and avoiding. Make sure you're not flying in areas that you shouldn't be flying. Remember, those regulations are there for a reason. And in aviation, we say that most of our regulations are written in blood, because they are. People had to die for a lot of these regulations. If you don't understand why 400 feet is the limit that we fly fly to, well, then reach out to a local FISDO or get a hold of me, and we can talk. We can go over why the regulations are the way they are. There is a reason for it. I know a lot of people have questions as to why it's 2,000 feet horizontally from clouds and only 500 feet below clouds. Doesn't that seem a little backwards? And the answer is no. Cloud or planes fly a lot faster horizontally than they do vertically, and so you need that separation, that clearance to be able to see aircraft that are coming right for you. So please stay in airspace that you're authorized to stay in. Please be aeronautically smart, aeronautically intelligent. This is our industry. This is our airspace, and let's be responsible out there, guys. We're all aviators, and let's fly safely out there.
The key point there, as soon as you put a drone in the air, you're an aviator. Act accordingly.
Absolutely. You are. You absolutely are. And that's coming from a guy that, I fly commercial airliners, and the last thing I want to see is someone's drone up in the airspace where they're not supposed to be. So aviation safety is paramount. So please follow the rules. They're there for a reason.
Yep. Listen to Captain Nordfors. All right, Jeff. Thanks for your time. Thanks.
Final thoughts. Final thoughts,
you.
Bobby. Like, dude, you want to wrap this up so bad. What do you what is your
in meetings for 4 hours, and I can't sit for much longer. Like
this is
my entire body hurts.
this is more important, man. We always end it. Everybody has an opportunity for final thoughts, and you're here rushing us.
Do you have some final thoughts to say, Lewis?
Yes, I do. Okay, my
How's
final
that for a segue?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, okay, number one, Adam, cut the bullshit. Okay. Number two, Stefanik and Robbins, go out, visit public safety end users that are using this equipment.
I thought you
I'm
said
tired of
something
seeing.
totally different.
I
did too for a minute there.
What did you think I said?
Not worth it.
I'll
Not
tell you
worth
later.
it. Not
Okay,
worth it. Go on.
Okay. So go out and visit these end users. See them using the equipment, right? I'm tired of seeing, Michael Robbins up in, in DC, doing what he's doing. Just go out there. You never see any pictures of him, visiting a department, visiting an agency, and being next to to their drones and talking. None of that stuff. It's all suit and tie, sitting behind a desk, advocating, that we shouldn't be using DJI drones. Go out there. Same thing for Stefanik. Go out there and talk to the end user. See, but see what they're using, what the equipment does. The capabilities, all that stuff. That's it. Now I'm dying to find out what you
final
thought I
thoughts
said.
are just what where are you? I feel like I'm in the Brady Bunch. What Kyle said. That's
I
it.
guess I'll plug Skybrows since we're here. We
Go for
released a video upload, which means you can upload cell phone videos with your drone videos. You can get the high resolution from the cell phones.
Vic, give me a high five.
I can't figure out which way I'm on. Wait a minute.
Other way,
I'm
other
all
way.
backwards.
There
I don't
you
know
go.
what the
Right
hell's
there.
going on. No, other way. Other way. There we go. Boink, boink. Oh, jeez. Sorry, Bobby. We're interrupting your plug.
We're a bunch of white guys. Sorry.
I don't think people realize how easy Skybrows is to use, and now the fact that you can use any video, right? So, after Adam is successful in getting rid of all our DJI drones, we can still use a cell phone and we can do a Skybrows 3D map or any other video.
Thanks for the plug. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Awesome. Fly safe.